My second success story is one that is probably far too personal. It's one where, if I'm being completely honest, I genuinely thought that I was going to get in trouble with this one. If you were at the banquet last year, you saw and heard about a baby. His name is Silas. And Silas and his dad were struggling prior to our banquet and a few weeks leading up to it. And they were staying in a really unsafe living environment. And Dad was struggling with substance use. And Dad desperately wanted to do something different. He just didn't necessarily know how to go about it and how to do it with a 4-month-old baby. Mom was not in the picture, but Dad desperately knew that if he wanted to be a part of his son's life and he wanted to be here, be alive, that this was something he needed to do. And so over time, I got to know Dad and Silas, and slowly start to build a relationship. The first time they came in, I can't tell you, I wish I could verbalize what I felt. I looked at that baby and immediately, I honestly don't know how to explain it. I was drawn to him. Brittany had known, our staff here had known Dad for many years through being both in recovery. And so Brittany offered to take Dad outside to talk to him about what he was going through, and I offered to hold the baby while Dad went and did what he needed to do outside. And he laid his head against my shoulder, and I just prayed. I prayed over him. I prayed that God would give him a life that was different from his dad's, a life that was different from mine, growing up around parents that struggled with addiction. And I just prayed over him, and I prayed that if there was a way, which seemed so impossible, but if there was a way that God would allow me to love this baby temporarily so that Dad could be the dad that I never had, that I would do it. Sure enough, a few weeks later, as we know at the banquet, God did what God does. And Dad called me, or he called Brittany and said, I can't do this, I need help, and I need you to take Silas. And we raced over there, had him sign a makeshift piece of notebook paper saying that he was allowing me to take care of his son. I told him the only way I was doing this is if I called CPS and got them involved. We were going the legal route. And that was the night of our banquet. So I walked into that banquet with a baby that was not my own, had never taken care of a baby before. But Dad was desperate, and he didn't know what to do, and I was willing to do whatever it took to make sure that Dad got to be here and be the dad that his son needed.
I got introduced with Corazon ministry when I was out there in the west side, right? And I was using heroin. I was strung out on heroin. And at that time, I was in the run as well, right? So, I mean, Corazon ministry had these men, right? You know, well, I didn't know them at first. And like, you know, Cody and Scott, you know, they would go out there, you know what I'm saying? But that's where I started knowing about Corazon, because, I mean, they started passing out, you know, syringes and all that. So we used to go over there. And one day, I mean, I had OD, you know, and then that day, I mean, that I OD'd, they had saved my life, because, I mean, if it wasn't for Corazon, you know, sending these men out, they would have never had that Narcan, because they gave me 2 Narcans and shots, you know, to bring me back alive, bro. Wow. If it wasn't for that, I mean, I wouldn't be here sitting down right now talking to you.